Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our morning session of paper 5 CA final, the paper on indirect tax laws. Now, sailing through this topic, we have reached to a very important and an interesting chapter. That is a chapter which deals with benefit to the business. This chapter is generally the most favored chapter for businessmen because this chapter relieves them from the burden of discharging the tax liability. This is what is called as exemption. In any tax law, this is the common terminology used, be it your income tax, be it your earlier central excise, VAT, service tax, or the present day GST. So the terminology remains same. We call it as exemption. Now, exemption can be of different forms, can be provided in different manners. Earlier indirect tax laws had even the concept of part exemptions, where out of the total duty, some part was exempt and only the remaining part was payable. However, under the GST law, we have the concept of complete taxation, though the law has provided for part taxation power. However, till date, this power has not been used. Everywhere, the power that we see or the exemptions that we see are exemption for whole of the duty. Now, under GST law, since everything is linked to supply, the definition is of exempt supply under the GST law. And this exempt supply is defined to mean three types of supplies. One, supplies where the rate given in the rate schedule is nil. Second, the supplies which are given exemption from tax wholly, which is what is our present chapter. And third, supplies on which presently GST is not leviable, like your 5 petroleum products, your alcoholic liquor for human consumption, and the ENA, that is the rectified spirit. So these are the three types of supplies which the GST law refers to as exempt supply. Now, students, what is important that you all should keep in mind and note is that anything to be called as an exempt supply has to first satisfy the test of supply. If something is not a supply in the first place, you cannot call it as exempt supply. So, in order to be exempt, it has to first be a supply. Now, in this chapter, we'll be discussing the supply which are wholly exempt. How? For that, the law has delegated the power to the executive, that is the government, whereby the government is empowered to grant exemption by either issuing an exemption or issuing a special order. Special order provides exemption only to a specific entity, a specific transaction, and hence it can be done only in exceptional circumstances. Till date, this power has not been utilized because of its very restrictive nature. What we are seeing today in exemption is the exemption which has to be granted generally, which may be absolute or conditional. If it is absolute, then the law says absolute exemptions are compulsory, because that is what is the intention of the law. When they give the exemption absolutely, it means whether you want or not, you will have to avail the exemption. And where the exemption is granted conditionally, then the law itself is giving you an opportunity, an option that you don't satisfy the condition, so the exemption will not apply to you, and vice versa. Now, one more important point, after the exemption is granted, either by way of notification or by way of special order, if at a future date, the government feels the need of clarifying the exemption by adding an explanation in the original notification or order, then from which date this explanation will be said to be effective? The answer is from the date when the notification is amended, including this explanation. In short, if the explanation is added on 1st of October 24. It will be effective from 1st October 24 onwards. That is what we called as prospective. However, if this explanation was added within 1 year of passing of the notification or within 1 year of the date on which this new exemption was added in the notification, then the explanation clarifying the exemption entry will apply retrospectively. Means it will not apply from the date when the explanation was added, but it will apply backdated from the date when that entry was added in the exemption notification. So this is about the delegation of power. Using these power, the government has provided the exemption. One, in relation to goods, there is no separate exemption notification. The exemption is provided by way of fixing the rate of the goods as nil in the rate notification. So in the rate schedule itself, the goods exemption would lie because they will be in the form of giving them nil rate. However, when we come to services, for services, there are separate schedules. One is the rate schedule, and you have a separate exemption notification. So what we are studying here is the service exemption notification, both under the central tax and also under the integrated tax. Initially, we have started with the central tax notification, and let me tell you, they all apply equally to the integrated tax as well. So what you are studying in this is also, you can remember, is applicable mutatis mutandis for interstate supplies. And then we will again, at the end of our session, we will go to the specific exemption notification which applies only to IGST supplies. That is, those are the additional exemptions provided under the IGST law. So this is what is the backdrop. Now, before I start with the exemption entries, I would like you all to come up with your queries or doubts, because we had started this in the previous class, and I'm sure if you all have read it, you would have found some issues. So yes, very good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rohan. Good morning, Radha, Gurram, Sai Kiran, everyone. Yes. So anybody having a doubt in the exemption?
Sir, you told about meal rate is been specifically mentioned in the goods. So there is no separate non-taxable supplies and all covered under it. Like whatever goods are covered, it will be at nil rate in compulsion, right?
Nee, beta, 1 second. See, you're mixing two things.
Okay.
There are three types of exempt supplies. One for which the rate in the rate schedule is nil. One which is granted exemption by way of notification, which happens in case of service. And third, which are non-taxable under GST. Now, when you are talking about goods, goods are covered in both first also and third also. If you remember our topic on charge, in the charging section itself, we studied that petroleum, 5 products are outside GST. So they are right now non-taxable. So automatically it becomes exempt supply. Second, the alcoholic liquor for human consumption and the ENA, that is the rectified denatured spirit. These are also given in the charging section itself as non-leviable to GST. So this is our third item which is considered as exempt supply, which is non-taxable supply. So in non-taxable, already you have the names of these goods. Now coming to the first category, when you go to the rate schedule, now in rate schedule, the rate will be provided only for which goods which are leviable to GST. Are you getting this? So non-leviable are already outside GST by the charging section itself, which we studied in section 9 and section 5. In that also we read the name of goods only. And then for all the remaining goods, other than these, all remaining goods are under the GST law. But out of those goods, like goods of basic necessity, your day-to-day requirements, and that too, if they are unpacked and if they are unbranded, they are given exemption by way of putting rate as nil in front of the name of those goods. So all these goods Like here, I have given few examples. All these goods are very much within the GST charging section, but for the time being, they are exempted by giving them rate as nil. So goods fall in both the categories, category 1 and category 3 of the exempt supply. Right, Radha?
Yes, sir. That means this curd, lassi, whatever unbranded things you said. Right now it is 0% rate, but in future also they can impose tax on it if they want.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because they are leviable to GST. They are not outside GST.
Yes.
Petroleum is for the time being outside. Alcoholic liquor and ENA are permanently outside. So for them, they will not be able to levy rate until unless they are first brought into GST. Right now, which are already into GST, all these items, the name which you can see on the screen, they are already under GST. But to give benefit to common man, their rate has been put as nil.
Yes, sir. That's why I was like, okay, non-taxable supplies is a part of it, but it's like this rate schedule is specifying this particular goods. That is what I understood, right?
Yes. Now I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Sir, sir, regarding indirect taxation between oil marketing companies and petrol bunks, not explained, sir. I'm asking two, three times.
But I am also not getting the answer. I'm sorry, beta, because the people who I'm asking, they all are not able to give me answers because it is a very specific transaction. So I have not yet come across people who are dealing in that category, beta. The day I will get, I will definitely put across. Every time I meet people, I keep asking them these pointers because see, these are very industry specific items and these are not very day to day common industry examples what you have asked. So the day I will get the answer, I'll answer you, beta. Fine.
Because for so many petrol bunks, we are doing GST filings, sir. That I'm not satisfied with provisions of law, but it is
Yeah,
going on. Nobody is questioning that their way of accounting. That's why I got doubts, sir.
yeah, no worries, but your doubt is very valid. But for that, the day I will get the answer, a concrete answer. See, it's not that I'm not getting answer, but I'm getting answers which I'm not given the confidence by the person. So I cannot pass on that wrong information to you until unless I am clear and confident, right?
But okay, can I explain my doubts, sir, in this regard?
But right now it is not the time. Nah. See, it is not the chapter where we can discuss a doubt. I hope you are okay with that, right? Let us complete our syllabus so you can connect to me separately for that, right? Yes,
But it
Naren.
is required for the day-to-day CA functioning, sir.
But you are right. But right now we are not into day-to-day practice sessions. No, we are into our exam-based sessions. Now, if let us say you have one doubt, so if I allow such type of doubts, I'll have to answer everybody's doubts. So our topic will be off track, and we'll be discussing something which is not part of your immediate exam syllabus. Correct? You do one
Okay.
thing. Now you put this doubt. You put this doubt. You write in BOS. So anybody from the BOS, whoever will get the answer, will write you back. So you'll get answer to your query. Na?
Mail ID, sir.
Sorry.
Mail ID.
Yeah, you put on BOS mail. You write us in the BOS. So at least it will be passed on in the BOS community. So if anybody else can come across the answer, we will answer you on the mail. Right?
Okay.
Perfect, beta. Yes, Narendra.
So some my queries regarding with the little bit doubt about the last 10 year about goes the GST से बाहर रखा गया है petroleum products को sir.
Correct.
Why just wants to know the curiosity sir? Why? Please sir. Thank you sir.
See, the answer is that when GST was supposed to be introduced, the states had a very big apprehension that they will be losing their revenue, and more important than revenue, they will be losing their power. See, understand one thing, having a power to do something in itself is a very big thing. Now, if I bring everything under GST, like let us say petroleum, liquor, and all these things, so the states today are having exclusive power. Like in some states, even gutka is banned, in some states, it is not banned, in some states, liquor is banned, in some states, it is not banned. Why? Because it is the exclusive power of the state, center cannot decide. But the moment I bring it under GST, it will be decided commonly by the council. Now in council, you have one major share of the center and then all other states have equal share. Now in that particular case, my power to control that particular item in my state will go. So that is why the states have not agreed. Whenever in future they come on this common consensus that, okay, we are ready to leave our independent power, then it will be brought under GST. Are you getting this? So that was done to give comfort to the state.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Now Rohan has asked a very important and interesting question relating to the first exemption entry, that we have so many kathas happening regularly. So kathas means where some knowledgeable person may be giving a deliberation or a discourse on Ram Katha, on Shiv Katha, or on any of these things. So he's asking whether it will be covered in our exemption relating to this particular entry. Now see, in this entry, which is the entry for charitable activities, we discussed that there is a specific definition, and in definition, there is one category which is advancement of religion, spirituality, yoga. So, whether all these kathas which are organized will be falling under this, I believe yes, 100%. But you have to always keep in mind the basic condition. See, charitable activities will be exempt only when these are provided by the charitable or religious trust. And what are they? They are the one which are registered under this section of Income Tax Act. So, only when this particular katha is provided, this particular discourse is provided. Obviously, the speaker is one person, but the speaker should be having a registered charitable trust, and all the receipts should be coming in that trust and not in his personal name. If the receipts are coming in the name of the trust, and the trust is a trust registered as per 12AA AB of the income tax law, then definitely the exemption will apply. Fine. Okay. Yes, students. So we did the first one, which was relating to charitable. Second one we did, which was relating to education. Then in education, we had exemption on both sides, the debit side and the credit side, that is the inward side and the outward side, both. Now we are going to go to the next very, very important exemption entry. Now, students, first, we covered charitable category, in which we covered multiple entries. Then we covered education. Now we are covering healthcare. Now in healthcare, what is to be seen is, till now, we have seen only one category, which is education, which is having exemption on both sides. That is the outward services by an education institution given to its students, faculty, staff is exempt. Over there, all outward services are exempt. And on the inward side, some specified services are only exempt. Now, except education, and second, which if you remember, I had informed in the previous class only, which will be coming later on, that is government. Only education and government are the two categories where you find exemption on both sides. Otherwise, in all the other cases, the exemption is only on the outward side. That is, the outward services provided by, like charitable, like healthcare. Later on, we'll see more categories like transport, etc. Now coming to healthcare. Again, we all know healthcare is a basic necessity of life and living. And that is why the government felt in public interest to grant exemption to healthcare. But in healthcare, students, the exemption entry has to be read very specifically. There are very important carve-outs, very important pointers, which you should pay attention to, because when it will come in exams, these carve-outs, these pointers will be the differentiating pointers in your answer. So let us understand the entry. Now, in relation to healthcare, broadly, there are two possibilities. One is healthcare for animals and birds, which we call as veterinary. So, services given by veterinary doctor, veterinary clinics, veterinary hospitals, all are covered in one single entry, that is entry 46, and it is exempt. So, if you take your pets to any veterinary, whatever fees the veterinary will charge, or if your pet has to undergo some type of operation or some type of procedure, whatever are the charges, that would be eligible for exemption. Now we come to human beings. Students, when you read the exemption notification, what you have to focus on. See, in some exemption notification, the stress is on the services which are provided. In some notification, the stress is on the service provider. In some notification, the stress is on the recipient of service. And in some, it is multiple. Like, if I have to give you example on the basis of previous entries covered, charitable exemption required both these elements. If you observe, provider, that is, it should be a charitable trust registered under 12AA, 12AB of the earlier income tax law, plus the service, which should be charitable activity. Both conditions were important. But if you go to education, now in education, we had outward, inward, both side exemption. On the outward, if you observe, the stress was only on the service provider, not on the services. If you remember, what was the education entry? Services, any service provided by the education institution. And then there was also stress on the recipient. So in case of education entry, outward services, the exemption entry emphasize who should be provider, who should be recipient. Provider should be educational institution, recipient should be student, faculty, staff. But there was no mention on what service. So all services provided by educational institution to its faculty, staff or student, all were exempt, including non-educational. Interesting. So these are the minor things which you need to observe. Now coming to the point. What is the point? But I'll answer you. Let me now, we are in the flow of this. So let me cover up this. Then I'll come back to your query and answer. I don't want to break the flow. Now, when you are reading the exemption entries, you have to focus on what the exemption entry is providing for. Is it providing for the nature of service? Or is it providing for the service provider? Or is it providing for the service recipient or all? Now, in healthcare, what is interesting is, again, it is switching to emphasis on two things, the nature of service and the service provider. Interestingly, who is a recipient is not material. See, now in healthcare, we have two entries. Let me go to entry B first, clause B first, which is simple. So it is services provided. Which service? Transportation service. How? In an ambulance. Other than those which are covered in A, because what is covered A is already exempt. So clause B is covering what? So we all have seen this many times. You require an ambulance for taking the patient from home to hospital or hospital back to home, or from one hospital to another, or from hospital to diagnostic centers. The ambulance is charging you some amount. Now, when the ambulance charges are independent of hospital, they are covered in clause B. If they are part of hospital service, anyways, it is covered in part A, no need of any problem. See, so there are both possibilities. See, you have to understand the taxation from the real life world. So when you see the real life, you will find this, that the ambulance is many times hired independent of the hospital. Independent of the hospital means either the hospital is not having ambulance service, that is a possibility. So they give you the number of 2-3 service providers. They say you contact them, you take their ambulance and come to hospital. So in that case, you are taking independent ambulance service, or the hospital may be having ambulance, but the ambulance are already occupied. So again, they give you number of some private ambulance providers. So that is what is covered in clause B. Clause B done. Now our entire focus for your exam questions and for your real life is clause A. Now, clause A has made out, as I said, two conditions or two emphasis. One is on the nature of service and one is the service provider. When both these conditions exist, exemption will be provided. So if it is only that the nature of service is healthcare, but the provider is not satisfied, there will be no exemption. Secondly, where the provider is satisfied, but the nature of service is not healthcare, exemption will not be given. I'll give you examples of all these. So let me start with the exemption entries. So what does the exemption entry say? So the exemption entry is basically covering what? It is covering the exemption for healthcare. And in this exemption, it is saying that whenever healthcare services, what it means, we'll see the definition. So what is the requirement I'm first telling you? So the basic requirement of the exemption notification is that what you are providing is healthcare service, and this healthcare service, when provided by whom? The words are clinical establishment. One second, students. Oh. So when the healthcare service is provided by a clinical establishment, first option, or by an authorized medical practitioner, second option, or a paramedic, third option. So two conditions, the nature of service and the service provider. Now we need to understand the definition of all of these. If I have to give you a simplified terminology, clinical establishment are hospitals, authorized medical practitioner is a doctor, and paramedics are those persons who are not holding the qualification of doctors, but they are providing ancillary services like after an operation relating to your ligament or any of your joints, after the operation is done, for recovery, you go to a physiotherapist. Now, if you see the qualification of physiotherapists, 90% of them are not doctors. They are only having a certificate where the certificate say they have undergone training and they are awarded this certificate that they can practice as a medical practitioner. So many of the physiotherapists may not be a doctor. Yes, nowadays it has become a trend that for better acceptability in the market, people who have taken the basic doctorate degree are becoming physiotherapists, but that need not be the requirement. So there are three types of service providers. Now, so three words and three meanings: hospitals, doctors, and you can say parallel to doctors, that is paramedics. Now, let us go to the most crucial definition. That is a definition of the service which is provided by these people will be exempt. That is the healthcare service. Now, only what is covered in the healthcare when provided by hospital, doctor, or a paramedic will be exempt. So it is very critical to understand the meaning of the definition of healthcare plus what will be and what will not be covered in this. Now, how healthcare is defined? It is defined starting with the word means. And I've already informed you, definitions start with two words, means or includes. Whenever it is includes, you know that the definition is not complete. It is very open-ended. But whenever the definition starts with the word means, it means it is complete, full and final. Only what is given here is what is covered. Now, what is covered in healthcare? First, it may be a service where you are only diagnosing. It may be a service where you are getting a treatment, or it may be the service where post-treatment there is only care. So any of these three services. So understand this practically. Many times you go and get your various tests done, MRI reports done, some type of CT scan done, some type of various these uh, stress tests and all these tests done. These are what? These are a diagnosis. They are done by whom? They are done by various diagnostic centers. You have the Metropolis, you have the Tata, etc., who are conducting these tests and giving you the reports. So that is the first type of service which will cover in healthcare. So whether or not you are going to a doctor, whether or not you are taking a treatment, that is immaterial. Only getting your reports done is covered in healthcare. So healthcare covers only the diagnosis. Second, the entire part of treatment. where you are going to a doctor, you are going to a hospital and getting the treatment. And third is the care. Now, this may happen either in those cases where there is no treatment possible, like, for example, persons infected with HIV or persons under any drug. This for them, there may not be a treatment. It will be only that a proper care has to be taken of these people. Second, post-major surgery, like you will see that there are prescriptions where the doctor say you will need a complete rest and care for 1 month, 3 months. You'll need a recovery period. That is what is care. And since the word used is or between all these three terms, it means independently one of these activities will also be satisfying the condition. Now, whatever you are doing, either diagnosis or treatment or care, it should be for what? Now, here there are 5 terminologies used. So, your diagnosis, treatment, or care should be either for some illness or some injury, deformity, abnormality, or it is the case of pregnancy. Now, again, understand. So, what care, what type of category you should be having so that you are getting diagnosis or treatment or care done. So, one is you are having any type of illness, like what we in Hindi called as bimari. So you are having any type of illness. Second, you are having some injury, maybe because of accident, because of fire, because of some pollution. So there is some injury inflicted to you. Then these are generally by birth, that either there is some deformity, there is something lacking, or there is some abnormality, there is something excess. So many times you'll see people have such type of deformities, abnormalities, either in some limb or on some facial feature, which they get corrected. And then pregnancy. Now, importantly, pregnancy is not falling in any of the 4. Pregnancy is in itself an independent activity. Hence, it is not covered in the first 4. It is neither an illness, nor injury, nor deformity, not abnormality. But for this, we regular undergo diagnosis, treatment, care, and the government wants to cover this in the exemption. So even any type of activity done relating to pregnancy is also covered. So first is what activities should be done? One of these. The activities should be dealing with or relating to what? One of these. And most important point, whatever diagnosis, treatment, care you are taking, it should be done only under recognized system of medicines. Now, this is again important. Now, I'm sure you all would be knowing there are various branches of medicine. There are various, you can say, philosophies of treatment. Out of this, presently, the government of India runs a scheme which is called as Ayush. Now, Ayush is also a Hindi terminology and it is also an abbreviation. Allopathy, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy. N is silent in this, so you cannot see N over here. So many times in alphabets, we have an alphabet which is silent in words. So that is one more, that is naturopathy. So you'll find that on many government portals, especially related to medical and treatment, like even the government provides that up to 5 lakhs of coverage for marginalized families. That is under the Ayush. In fact, we have a specific ministry and department. So only when you are getting yourself treated in one of these forms of medicine, which are today recognized in India, only then the exemption applies. Now you'll say, sir, besides this, what are the other forms? See, there are 100 forms of medicines. There are 100 forms of treatment. Like I'll give you a few examples. I'm sure some of you may have heard the word Reiki. Some of you may have heard the word pranic healing. Then you have sound therapy, water therapy, color therapy. Now, maybe water therapy may get covered in naturopathy, but you have so many different therapies, different branches. Like in between, sometime maybe 10 or 12 years ago, when the Chinese goods had started flooding the Indian markets, and you had all those various Chinese products which people used to keep, which we used to call as what, feng shui something. At that time, there was a very you can say, famous treatment mechanism of China, whereby they used to put different types of agarbattis around you to create a particular aroma. They used to make you lie down, maybe sleep, and they used to, through that aroma, then they used to make different types of sounds through various instruments. They said that this is one of the healing therapies. So there are so many therapies which are there in prevalent in India, in outside India, but in India, the government has recognized these therapies or these branches of medicine, which are today the recognized systems of medicine. So you'll have to remember the name. So remember the word Ayush, in which N is there, but it is silent, it is not spelled out. So you're taking one of these things in relation to any of these and in one of the forms of medicine. When all these are satisfied, that will come under health care. So this is the main component definition of healthcare. Now, relating to this, what else is given? If the hospital is also doing transportation of patients from where to where, to and from the hospital, that will also be covered. So that I explained when I was explaining clause B. So clause B covers independent ambulance people. Clause A covers the hospital's own ambulance service. So where hospital is providing you ambulance for bringing you to the hospital or taking you back home, that is also covered, but that is covered in clause A because it is done by the hospital itself, and A covers hospitals. Now, the most important part, students, where you may get a tricky question for which you should be prepared, is this part. Now, in this part, what they are trying to do is they are trying to exclude something from the exemption. But again, this exclusion has an exclusion. It means this part is excluded and this part is included in the exemption. Now, what they are saying that will be excluded from exemption. So if you are taking treatment for any of these, it will be taxable because it is excluded from the exemption. What is that? Hair transplant, cosmetic surgeries, plastic surgeries. Now, when any of these things are done, which nowadays, has become very common, especially you hear about this with relation to film stars that regularly, just to maintain themselves, make them look young, make them look better, make them be fit for their entertainment industry. These things are commonly done by celebrities, film stars. What are these? Hair transplant, cosmetic surgeries. We have heard about many of the film stars getting some treatment done for their nose shape, they're getting treatment done for their chin, getting treatment done for their cheeks, eyes, their eyebrows, many things they do. That is all cosmetic surgery. And plastic surgery, whereby some type of skin grafting is done, some type of artificial layering is done on the face or on various parts of body to look better. Now, all these things are not covered in the exemption. But as you see, there is an exception to this. Now, when these three things are done for beautification merely, they are taxable. But when these things are done, why? To restore or to reconstruct the anatomy or functions of the body. And why this is required? Because you were affected either by the congenital defects, developmental abnormalities, or injury or trauma. So, first, the basic answer is hair transplant taxable. But let us say you have developed some congenital issues, because of those congenital issues, congenital defects, you have started losing patches of hair. So there are various type of, I forgot that name, there is some derma, something called, where a particular type of, you can say, disease happens to you. Because of it, suddenly you lose hair in patches. In fact, even on the beard region, one part of your skin develops that, I'm forgetting that name of that terminology, because of which one part of your
Alopecia areata, sir. Alopecia.
Acha, in alopecia it happens.
Yes, in alopecia areata, patches of hair is being lost.
Correct. So that becomes a congenital defect. Second thing which is covered over here is, let us say you have undergone a cancer treatment. I'm sure now, since unfortunately cancer has become very common, so you would have seen this around your family or in your neighborhood or any of your known persons, that when a person is taking the chemotherapy, which is a very common treatment in cancer, at that time they lose hair, but that can be regained later. Now, for that case, again, if you're doing hair transplant, that is again covered in the exemption. And then injury. So there was some accident, there was some fire. Again, in relation to this, there was a baldness, or because of the fire, your head got burnt and you lost that particular skin which holds the hair follicles. So again, you underwent the treatment. And same thing in all these cases, you took some cosmetic treatment. Like, so there were burns, there were scars. So to remove them, you had to undertake a cosmetic or plastic surgery. Then it will be exempt. So when it is plainly for beautification and you have not undergone any of these things, congenital defects, developmental abnormality, injury, or trauma, still you are going for that. Like as I gave you example at the start, celebrities and film stars do that, that will be taxable. But where in one of these circumstances, there is a hair loss, there is some problem with your face, it has got destructured because of some accident, some trauma, and you are getting it corrected through cosmetic or plastic surgery, that will be exempt. Fine. So this is the most important aspect of the definition of healthcare. Now, within healthcare, what is important to be noted is that we have a concept of composite supplies under the GST law, right? Now, what is the concept of composite supply and mixed supply? So when bundle of goods services are provided together as a bundle, as a complete package, then we check whether it is composite or mixed. If it is composite, we apply the rate applicable to the principal supply, that is the main supply. Now, in case of healthcare service, this concept becomes very important. Example, let us say you are admitted to the hospital for some treatment. So let us take a minor example. You have appendix problem, and for the treatment of appendix, you have to get admitted to the hospital. Well, let us say the hospital says you'll have to take admission. We'll keep you under observation for first 2 days to ensure that your BP and everything is in control. And after that, we'll do the appendix operation. And again, post the operation, let us say for next 2-3 days, you'll be in hospital. So roughly, you'll be there for 5 to 7 days. Now, when you are admitted to a hospital, one part which the hospital is doing, or which is the principal supply, is the treatment, which in this case is the appendix operation. But if you see the hospital bill has around 20 line items charging you for various things, which may be goods, which may be services. Like the very first thing that they are charging you is for the room where you are going to stay. Maybe your family members are also going to stay. Again, you have categories of rooms. Second, the clothing that they give you, they charge for that. Thirdly, for the operation, there are various equipment, there are various syringe, saline, many things are required, which is purchased from outside or purchased from the hospital's dispensary. They charge you for that. Then pre and post operation, you require regular medicines for your better recovery. That is what is charged to you. Now, these both are example of goods. Then you are charged for nursing staff, you are charged for the food provided, you are charged for doctor visits. There are n number of items for which you are charged. Now, out of these, only one or two or three items are relating to the actual service of healthcare, which is operation, which is treatment. Remaining things like stay, like food, they are not directly related to healthcare, but since they are provided to you as a bundle of service, as a package, hence we come to the concept of composite supply, where it becomes part of the composite supply, where the main principal supply is healthcare. So the entire package becomes exempt. So whether those things like medicines. Not all medicines are having zero rate. Many of the medicines are taxable. So if you go and buy something from the chemist shop, you have to pay tax. But if the same medicine is provided to you during this course, that is the course or the period when you are admitted to the hospital for this appendix operation, the same medicine cost which is added to your hospital bill will become exempt, because in that case, the supply of medicine, which is a supply of goods, becomes part of a composite supply where the principal supply is treatment. Hence, all the other ancillary and subsidiary supplies become exempt. Same thing is with the food. So you have a hospital canteen or you have some canteen outside. If you take food by yourself or if your family members are taking food from there, it is taxable because restaurant services are taxable at 5%. But when the same food is given to you during the course of your admission in the hospital, during the course you are undergoing this treatment of appendix, that period's hospital bill includes your food bill, and that food bill, being part of the composite supply, is treated as if it is part of the main principal supply, and principal supply exempt, so even the food supply is exempt. So this is a very important aspect that you should keep in mind. What is important to be noted is when it will be part of the healthcare service, that is when it will be part of composite supply, when it will not be. So the answer is when you are admitted in the hospital, then when hospital is billing you, because again the person supplying should be one of these. So when the hospital bills you, it becomes part of a composite supply where the main or the principal supply is healthcare. So everything comes under exemption. Now, in this composite supply, there is one carve out. This was done just, I think, 2 years before. So what government observed, that again, all these celebrities and high class businessmen or the super rich persons, whenever they are admitted to hospitals, within these large hospitals, there are specialized rooms which are like a 5 or a 7-star hotel room, where all the facilities equivalent to a 5 or 7-star hotel is provided. So they are not simply staying in one room. They have an entire suite room like a hotel where they have the special sitting area, hall area where they have the bedroom. So all this is part of that hospital. In fact, nowadays, if you have heard, India has one very important services to offer to the world, that is health tourism, where people from across the world visit India. Now, when these people are coming to India for a treatment, again they are provided a complete package whereby they are provided specialized rooms in hotels only for stay. And in all these cases, the government observed that because of this vastness of this composite supply concept, many times these extra leisurely services, I'm using the word extra leisurely, is also getting exempt, which technically, which practically are not essential requirement of healthcare. They are for extra luxury or maybe show off or maybe status. So the government carved out this particular part in the exemption. So now they are saying exemption will not apply to what? To the room charges. Which room charges? Where the room charges per day exceed rupees 5,000. So now what is the impact of this? The impact of this is that now whenever your hospital bill will include room charges. So again, it is a part of composite supply, agreed. But if the room charges exceed rupees 5,000 per day, then out of the entire bill, all other components being part of composite supply will be remain exempt, but this one component will now become taxable. So room charges exceeding 5,000 per day will become taxable. Now again, there is an exception to this. That is when this room charges even though exceeding 5,000 will not become taxable, will remain exempt if the rooms are ICU, CCU, ICCU, and ICU. So as you know, these are all specialized rooms. So where you are in a very critical stage, or there is a newborn baby who requires a special care, or there is a heart patient. So for them, all these different types of rooms or facilities are created in the hospital. And many times, because of the specialized service given over there, or let us say a person is put on ventilator. So in such cases, the per day charge of the room may run into multiple thousands or at times even in lakhs per day charge. But you'll understand why this particular part has been carved out and kept in exemption, because these are actually healthcare services. So where you are kept in one of these rooms, then whatever is the charge, that will also remain exempt. But other than these four type of rooms, if there is any other room for which the hospital is charging you and the per day charge of that room exceeds 5,000, so that will become taxable, only that one charge. Now, in relation to this, you have the other concepts and definitions. So the word clinical establishment, as I already explained, it is what? It is the hospital, nursing home, clinic, sanatorium, etc., which offers you these services. Authorized medical practitioner, as I said, it means a doctor, that is a practitioner who is registered with the council. So like how we as chartered accountant have to register with ICAI and get certificate of practice. Similarly, these doctors, depending upon what is their domain, whether they are in allopathy or Ayurveda or homeopathy, they have their respective councils. Like how we have institute, they have their institute called as councils, and they have to register over there to get the certificate of practice. So when they get the certificate of practice, they become a authorized medical practitioner, in our words, doctors. And then there is this concept paramedics. It is not defined in this GST law, but as per the general definition, these are who? These are the trained persons who are in relation to healthcare only. Like you have nursing staff, you have physiotherapists, technicians, lab assistant. In fact, nowadays you have these nutritionists. All these are fitting in paramedics. Right? Now, there are some important clarification circular. So when this amendment had come, it had clarified that rent of room having room charge up to 5,000 per day will remain exempt. Only when it will be taxable, when it exceeds 5,000, then that room charge will be taxable. But up to 5,000, if your room charges, that will remain exempt. Now, a practical scenario. What is this practical scenario? So many times, see, hospitals nowadays are working like corporates. So either they take these doctors on salary. If they are paying salary to the doctor, there is no question, because the salary received by the doctor is anyways, salary is covered in Schedule 3, it is outside GST. But many times the hospitals are not keeping or taking the doctors on salary terms, because the doctor itself is a very renowned specialist. So we have this visiting doctors. Now, whenever we have visiting doctors, so the doctors are charging a particular fee for every visit, for whatever they do in the hospital. So hospitals are paying to the doctors, because hospitals have hired those doctors not as an employee, as a specialist, and they are paying to these doctors independently. Independently means not like an employer. Now understand this, there are two legs. So hospital is providing the treatment to patient. So patient is paying the bill to the hospital. This anyways is covered in the exemption entry. Now the question that we are answering is, in return, the hospital is paying the charges to the specialist doctors who are visiting the hospitals. Now the question that arose was that when doctors are providing these services, technically they are providing service to the hospital, though they are treating the patient only in the hospital, but their bill is going to the hospital, and there is a contract or agreement between the hospital and the doctor. So the patient has not directly hired the doctor. The doctor is being hired by the hospital. Now, in such cases where the hospital is paying them their charges, let us call it as visiting charge, consultancy charge. Many times specialist doctors are asked to be present in the operation theater. So if there is some emergency, they can take care of. And most important, it is not under employer-employee relationship, because if that is the case, anyway, salary is excluded in GST. But it is not that case. Now, in such cases, the question is, this point is exempt, we already saw. But what about this? So CBIC has already clarified that even this type of consultation fees paid by the hospitals to the doctors will be treated as part of healthcare and exempt. Then another clarification is relating to that composite supply concept. So whatever amount the hospital charges to the patient, and the patient is admitted to the hospital, all these charges, whatever the hospital is charging, will be exempt. Then for food, as I discussed, if you are admitted in the hospital, that is, you are an inpatient, then it is exempt. But if the food is supplied to non-admitted patient, that is, you are just going to the hospital for a routine checkup, you are not admitted in the hospital, or the food is provided to your relatives who are attending you, that is not exempt, because that is not treated as part of composite supply of healthcare. Then relating to ambulance service, what is the clarification? When it is provided by a PSP, so it is like a private organization, but on behalf of state government, again some consideration in the form of fees, etc., that would also be covered under exemption. But when? This will be covered under exemption when these are forming part of these articles. So see, these PSPs, they are actually not providing the facility to the patient. They are providing the facility to the government. So it may be the state government, or it may be the local panchayats, municipalities. So you know that government also runs their hospitals and dispensaries, or they are providing facilities in remote areas, in smaller villages. So when government hires these PSPs, so the charges that these PSPs are levying is on the government. So whether it will be exempt, so the answer is yes, but it is not exempt under this entry. It is exempt under the entry of government services, which we are going to see later. And it will be exempt over there, subject to the satisfaction of the condition over there. Now coming to what will not be covered in this healthcare. Now you will observe that, as I said at the start of this, two cumulative conditions have to be satisfied. First, the nature of service, and then the service provider. Now, when we talk about nature of service, the nature of service should be health care. And healthcare is defined as diagnosis, treatment, or care. Besides these three, if the hospital is doing anything else, it is not covered in healthcare. This I mentioned at the start. What are the examples of the hospital doing something besides this? So, giving shops on rent. I'll say, sir, what is the practical example of this? So if you go today to any multi-storied hospital, which is nowadays called a super specialty hospital, it is generally a whole building or maybe 2 or 3 floors. Now, in such multi-storied hospital buildings, you find a floor where there is a cafe or a restaurant or a catering. You will find that there are restrooms created. Now, all these things are provided on some charging basis. Now, there are two possibilities. One, the hospital itself is running this, but many times the hospital does not get into this because all these require special approvals, separate laws are applicable. So for food safety, you have FSSAI, then you have various food licenses. So the hospital does not want to get into hassle. So what they do is they keep one floor exclusively to be given on rent to these people. Because see, when a patient or their relatives are coming to the hospital and they have to stay there for a whole day or maybe for multiple number of hours, they will require these facilities. So for their convenience, nowadays all these multi-specialty hospitals are maintaining this, plus even the dispensaries in the hospitals. Many times these dispensaries are not run by the hospitals, rather they are not allowed to run the dispensary. So they always let out the space for dispensary to some outsider. In such cases, whatever is the rent charged by the hospital. Second, many times the hospital also give their auditorium on rent. All these things are liable. They will not be covered in exemption because they are not fitting in healthcare definition. Similarly, many times in hospital premises, you will find advertisements of what? Of various insurance companies or of various pharmacy products. So when these advertisements are displayed within the hospital premises, that is done for some charge. So hospital is charging an amount to all these companies. Again, the charges which the hospital is taking from these companies is not healthcare, so it is also taxable. Then there was an issue raised that nowadays we have these IVF centers where if people are not able to conceive naturally, so through these test tube baby concept, they can conceive and they can have children. Now, in such cases, the services provided by IVF, whether it will be covered in healthcare. So for this, the clarification which was given, though according to me, they were late by 5 years. They should have come in the very first year of GST, but fine. Things may take time because until unless the government get the query from the industry, they will not give any clarification. So when they got this query, that what about IVF? Whether the IVF facility should be considered as part of healthcare service. So they have clarified, yes, first the IVF is for pregnancy, but many times you know that IVF may not lead to pregnancy. The IVF, this procedure may not give you the results. So in that case, it is not compulsory that it is leading to pregnancy always. So that was the query. So they have clarified this, that this is also arising because of some type of abnormality or illness, which normally is called as infertility. So that is also treated as a part of abnormality or defect. And hence, when you are getting it treated, these IVF facilities are also eligible for exemption because they will be treated as health care services. So students, this is all about the very exhaustive concept of healthcare. Anybody, if having any questions relating to healthcare sector, please put it across. Yes, students. Anybody, any questions?
Sir, what is PSP services? I didn't get it.
What is?
PSPs on behalf of state government, you said na 10th point.
See, PSPs, actually I'm forgetting the full form, but these are specific service providers which provide ambulance services, like you have what you say, a small hospital in the ambulance itself. So why these services are created? Because in remote areas, in very small villages, it is not possible to have a complete hospital, maybe because there is no proper facility, rather many times there is no proper electricity and water itself, and there is a lack of proper trained persons. You do not get proper doctors. So the government run these services for their remote areas. So that is where the government takes the service from a PSP. I'm just forgetting the full form of PSP. So PSP is like an external agency. It may be a private agency which is providing the government the services of making available ambulance and all these facilities, so that the government can reach out to the remotest part of the state. So in all these smaller villages and remote areas, the PSP vans go, which is like an ambulance only, but within that they have the basic treatment facility. So even a doctor is there, even a nurse is there. Like many times you'll find that outside some temple and all, there is a van like an ambulance which is stationed, which is collecting blood. So they request every person coming to that particular temple or religious place that you kindly donate blood. So that van is like the what is coming under PSP. So it is a van, it is an ambulance only. It is like that tempo traveler van, which is specially designed to act as a mini hospital. Those are PSPs. Is this fine? I'll take some questions which are in the chat box. So Guram has asked me, sir, these services are exempt, but if hospital deliberately or unknowingly charges GST, then see, understand one thing. So whenever something is exempt, and as you can see, all these are absolute exemptions, none of them is conditional. Nowhere you are given an option to take or not to take the exemption. So these are all compulsory, obligatory exemptions. Now, if in any of these cases, the hospital knowingly, unknowingly, purposefully charges GST, fine. First thing is, first rule given in the GST law itself is they will have to remit the GST to the government. Now, in such cases where any person feels that this is wrong, this is incorrect, they can definitely complain to the hospital authorities, or they can even inform the respective areas GST department that they are doing this. But first thing, whatever GST has been collected, that the hospital has to compulsorily deposit with the government. Rachid is asking if any MBBS is cleared, the person having a degree starts clinic and gives service, these services are exempt. Exactly. So MBBS is what is doctor, right? Radha says, so under composite supply, certain services are exempt and certain taxable. Then what is the GST implication? But this is what we have discussing. So hospital is the best example of a composite supply because a hospital bill covers so many varied items. I just gave you example. Now in that, some are exempt and remaining all are taxable. Now if it is a composite supply, you'll have to check which one is the principal. Like in case of hospital, the principal supply is the operation for which you have got admission to the hospital. That is the main supply. So operation comes under healthcare. Healthcare is exempt. So all other goods and services which are part of composite supply will become exempt, even though independently they are taxable. That is what is the point of composite supply. Now, Rachid had earlier asked one question. Sir, if the person who is chanting Katha receive the money from the charitable trust, is this covered under GST? See, if the person independently is receiving the money, then again in the charitable entry, you have to check one point. What is that one point? If you remember, in the charitable entry, there is a point which says that when you are getting any of the, what was that term? Your rituals done. So when you get rituals done, which is prescribed by your religious text, then for those rituals, whatever fee you give to the Panditji, to the Maulvi Sahab, or to the father of a church, that becomes exempt. Now we'll have to see that when they are coming and chanting some mantra or katha, whether it can be said to be part of a ritual. Like for example, you get Satyanarayan Katha done. Now, when the person is coming and doing Satyanarayan Katha, it is a part of a ritual. So in that case, the fees given to that person is exempt. So whenever a person does a katha, if it is forming part of a ritual, it will be eligible for exemption. Fine, students. So we have completed 4 major sectors where exemption is provided. Now we move on to a whole big category. Now, as I said, similar to education, even for government, on both sides there is exemption. Right now, we are talking about the outward services. That is the services given by the government. Now here, you will see a list of entries. Correct? Now, in this list, some entries are connected entries. Connected means they have some interlinking. I will explain those entries and I will give you one single sentence which covers all those entries. But before that, let me take you to the other independent entries. What are they? Services given by governmental authority by way of any activity in relation to functions entrusted to a municipality. And similarly, services given by governmental authority by way of any activity in relation to functions entrusted to panchayat. In simple words, whenever any activity is done by the government and these activities are covered in the constitution, either article 243W, 243G, these activity will be exempt. I'll give you a very simple example what falls in entry 4 and 5. Now, every year you have to pay something called as a municipal tax. I'm sure you all know this. Municipal tax. In some places they call it as ghar patti. In some cases they will call it as land revenue tax. So it is known by different names. Now, whenever you get this municipal tax bill, generally it is issued once in a year and it is generally issued in the month of March. Practically, this is what I've seen in majority of the cases. So the government gives you the invoice in advance and asks you to pay that particular bill. In this particular case, if you observe, if you read the bill, they have listed down various activities for which they are charging you this amount which they are terming as municipal tax or ghar patti. Now, if you read that list, what it covers, It covers the various activities which the government is doing or the various facility services which the government is providing. What are they? You have street lighting. You see every early morning there are people cleaning the streets. Then every day, once or twice, there is a garbage van coming to your society, to your house, collecting the garbage. Now, these are various facility services which are given by the government to you, but there is no separate charge. But they are charging it under the name of Gharpatti. Now, in some cases, there may be a specific charge also for any of these activities, makes no difference. So far as the person charging you is the governmental authority, and so far as the service which is done, the facility which is provided is covered in Article 243W, 243G of the Constitution, the charges levied on you by that government authority will be exempt. Is this clear? Yes? Okay. Next entry. Services provided by central government, state government, union territory. Sorry, this is the connected entry. Sorry, I'll come to this separately. Yes. Eighth entry. Services provided by one government to another government. In short, services flowing between governments is always exempt. So government to government exempt. Next, again supply of service, again by government, and interestingly, it is again given to the other government, but how? Against a consideration which is received from the other government in the form of grants. So many times you will hear that the central government is giving grant to state, the state government is giving grant to other departments. So whenever grants are passed on by one government to another or from one body to another, that is again exempt. Another specific service. Now this service may be provided either by government or by again the registered trust. In both cases, it will be exempt. So you can also say that this is also covered in the trust entry, but we are covering it here. So either government is providing this or the trust are providing this. Now, what is this facility? Old age homes. Now, this is an unfortunate part of our society that we nowadays are requiring many old age homes. Unfortunate part, this should not happen. In fact, I remember hearing a story. I'll say it is a story. I don't know whether it is a true fact or not. That once Mahatma Gandhi ji was invited for inauguration of a old age home, which after our independence was supposedly one of a very big old age home started by a very big industrialist. So he thought that since he is doing a very great work of charity, which actually he was, so he thought let it be inaugurated by Mahatma Gandhi ji, because at that time you all know Mahatma Gandhi ji was considered as the main prime person who got us the independence, and that is why today also we treat him as our father of the nation. But the story says Mahatma Gandhi ji rejected the proposal of coming for the opening or inauguration ceremony. You know why? Because Mahatma Gandhi ji said that if we are requiring a place like old age home, it is not a good indication of our society. In fact, it shows that our social values are degrading. We are not supporting our own parents who at one point of time sacrifice everything for you. Right from the day you were born, they started making multiple adjustments in their own lifestyle. They started sacrificing their own comforts, rather their own basic necessities, so that they can provide you good education, good coaching. During your youth, when they were in their middle age or nearing their old age, still they invested a huge amount. They spent a huge amount out of their savings so that you can get a good future by way of either getting you admitted in a very costly course or a college or a university, and later on, even after your qualification, wherever you wanted to start your own business, they spent a huge amount investing in your business. Now, after all this, when they are retired and they have already spent so much of their money, they have invested so much of the time in you. If in their old age, if you are not able to take care of them, so it is a degradation of the society. So on these lines, Mahatma Gandhi ji denied the proposal. He said, I will come on that day when you are closing this old age home. You invite me on that day, I will come for its closing ceremony rather than on its inauguration. So, just a story which I always find very inspiring. So, I always share with the students. So, if the old age home is run either by government or by trust, and obviously it is old age home, so it should be for whom? It should be for people who are aged 60 or more, whom we call as senior citizens under the income tax law. And most important, see, if these all are running free, then there is no question of GST. We are discussing this from the chapter of charge itself. That if anything is given free, somebody is giving donation, somebody is giving any facility free, there is no question of exemption. Like you have free medical camps being run by some private person or some trust in some Jhopadpatti areas or in some remote areas, some remote villages. So all these are anyways out of question of GST because they are doing it free. They are doing it as charity. All these questions of exemption comes only when people are charging. So for these old age homes, there is a charge. So the people staying over there, either their family members are paying or they themselves out of their savings are paying. So the exemption is allowed if the charge is up to 25,000 per month per member. So whatever is the charges levied by this government or charitable organization for the old age home is exempt provided their charge per month per person is not exceeding 25,000. Further, again, applying the concept of composite supply, they have clarified in this particular exemption entry itself that these charges are inclusive of everything, lodging, boarding, maintenance, everything. So it is not that you are only giving them facility to stay. Once a person is staying, he will require other facilities also, like day-to-day food, laundry services, day-to-day care by some person. So everything is covered in this and it will be all eligible for exemption. Then again, some more specific exemptions which are provided is now when you go to take the facility of railways, the railways are charging you besides the travel. Now see, travel is not covered here. Why? Because for travel, we'll have a separate entry on transportation of passengers later. So we're not talking about the travel charges. But whenever you go to a station, let us say for receiving or seeing off any of your relatives, you have to take a platform ticket because you're not traveling. So the person who is traveling, you have come just to see off that person. So the platform ticket charges which are levied are exempt. Then you have the waiting rooms, and many of them are chargeable, especially the properly maintained and the AC waiting rooms. They may charge you something per hour, that is exempt. Then around many of these stations, you have the facility to keep your luggage and later on collect it. So you have the clock room charges where per hour basis or maybe per day basis, they charge you an amount per luggage. Then nowadays, this also has started in many stations that if you cannot walk or reach to that particular pace, then battery operated cars with some charge are provided. All these are exempt. Similarly, again, within Ministry of Railways, the services provided by one zone or division to another zone or division. So as you know, for the purpose of railway, the entire India is bifurcated into different zones. So you have the Western railways, you have the Central railways, you have the Northern railways, you have the Southern railways. So we have different zones. So between railways, when one zone is providing any service to another zone, that is again exempt. Similarly, services provided by special purpose vehicle to Ministry of Railways is also exempt. Services of post. Till now we were discussing about railways. Now when you go to post, Now, after this internet and all these things, this has become very less, but still in smaller towns, people are still using the post office. So when they need to send a letter somewhere, they buy postcards or they buy those inland letters, those light blue colored. All these are exempt. Similarly, you pay charges whenever you want to send something from one place to another, where they call it as book post, and ordinary post, where the envelope is less than 10 grams. Now, what is important is if you take the speed post or you take the RPAD, that will be taxable. But again, see, the logic is what? Common man services. So when a common man goes to a postal department, it will take any of these services. It will not go for the express post or the speed post. So that remains taxable, but these common man services are exempt. Similarly, services which the government is providing, whereby they are helping their undertakings or the PSUs. How they are helping? By guaranteeing the loans. So see, whenever any PSU starts, so many PSUs, some are even Navratna companies, but many PSUs, when they start, they require loans to set up their business or activity. Now, you all know PSUs are the government's own undertaking. That is why they are called as PSUs. So for getting loans, the government has to stand as a guarantor. Then only the bank will provide loan. So this facility where the government is acting as a guarantor of the loans of PSU is exempt. Next specific activity by government, which is exempt, is so many times when you are running a business, you require various registrations. We also call them as licenses. So whenever you pay for getting any license or registration done, which is required under any law, the charges for that registration or license is exempt. Similarly, from time to time, you may require certain testing, calibration, safety checks, or these type of various certificates. Like in case of restaurants nowadays, it has been made compulsory that you should have check done for the fire proofness of your restaurant. Similarly, nowadays in many places they have made it compulsory that your, like even the education centers, because you all would have heard in last 5-6 years there were some tragic incidents where because of not having proper ventilation or proper parallel exit, the students got stranded in that particular coaching class, and suddenly due to heavy rains the water filled in and the students got drowned. So after all these incidents and plus unfortunate common fire incidents in restaurant places, so various now types of checks and certifications are required from time to time. So whenever these checks and certifications are required, why they are required? Because they are for protection and safety either of the workers or consumers or public. So all such safety checks, all such fire licenses, etc., charges are exempt. Next, when you get your passport done, visa done, birth certificates, death certificates, driving license, you have to pay some charge to the government authority. All this is exempt. Next, whenever the government imposes any charges on you, why? Because you had entered into a contract with government, but for some reason you could not honor it. So the government is levying some charges. All these are exempt. Next, where the government assigns right to use natural resources to various persons. Out of that, when it gives to farmers, and the rights are relating to cultivation of plants or life forms of animals, these licenses or assignment of rights are exempt. Next, when you require government officers to be deputed, and when to be deputed, either after their normal working hours or on holiday. Now, this generally happens in customs. So if any of your consignment has come, it got late, so it landed late, but you want it cleared urgently because maybe there is a long weekend holiday. So next 4 or 5 days, there is a holiday because of which the customs may not be operating, and you want the clearance done immediately because of the necessity and urgency of your business. So the custom law provides you that you can pay extra charges, and then the custom will appoint their officers to work even overtime or even on holidays for the purpose of inspecting your container, etc., so that you can get it cleared urgently. These charges are again exempt. Similarly, charges where the state government is having royalty collection contract. So the rights that they are assigning to various stakeholders relating to royalty is what is exempt. And then finally, services which are provided by rehabilitation professionals. Now, what is rehabilitation? I'm sure you all know rehabilitation means that when some tragic incident happens, like during 1947, we had the partition of India. So many people got dislocated. Similarly, we had the tragic incident in Kashmir where the people were made to leave their houses and leave Kashmir. So again, in all these cases, now I'm giving you some very common or commonly discussed cases, but there are so many other reasons like there are flood, fire, etc. So because of which, like nowadays, you have so many wars going on. So the people get displaced. For that, the government undertakes the rehabilitation of these people. Now, in this relation, there are some professionals who are recognized under the act which is passed by the government of India. What these people do, they provide services relating to rehabilitation, therapies, counseling, because many times all these people are also mentally, psychologically impacted. So their charges will be exempt, provided these are all covered by the respective act, that is the Rehabilitation Council Act, and these are provided either at medical establishment or in educational institution or rehabilitation centers, which are run either by the government or by trust. So students, these are some very specific services. Many of these are not relevant for exams. What is relevant for exam is this, the main service of government, which we will discuss. But before that, we will take a break because continuously we are discussing so many things. So maybe it may be too much at a time. So let us go for a break. And after the break, we will come back and we'll discuss this. Fine. Now, students, now we are going to discuss few entries which are in combination. Now, for these entries, the rule is yes, Narendra.
Sir, one query is regarding with my concept is not clear. The excess royalty collection contract, sir. This is not clear, sir. Please, sir.
See, these, frankly speaking, I did not go into the details of this because right now, beta, they are not in force. These are all
Right, sir.
past entries. So let us not spend our time. You can very comfortably ignore this, beta.
Right, sir.
Fine.
Right, sir.
Now, see, regularly, so we saw all the specific services which if you are getting from government, they are eligible for exemption. Now, besides those specific services, there are many more services, there are many more activities, I'll say, which the government is doing and for which it is charging. Again, see, I repeat, see, government does many things, many of which are their, you can say, sovereign functions. So whatever is the sovereign function of the government, anyways, there is no question of GST, and in majority of the cases, they are even not charged. But besides these sovereign functions, whenever any other activity is done by the government, in such cases, we have to see the chargeability. Now, what is the rule? I'll write the rule firstly in one line. Then we will read all those entries from where collectively you get this one line rule. So it is all non-sovereign functions or activities which are done by, now I'm using a common word government, it covers central, state, local, everything. So which are done by government for large business entity and amount exceeds rupees 5,000. Now, all these points you will get to know when we read multiple entries. So from multiple entries, what is coming out is that whenever government is providing or doing these activities for individuals, for common man, it is exempt. When it is doing for small businesses, it is again exempt. When it is doing for large businesses, but the charge of the government is below 5,000, this is also exempt. So this is what is given in different entries. So I have merged it and made one single sentence that when the government does any specific activity which is a non-sovereign function, and it is done for large business entities, not for small, plus also it is not done for individuals, it is done for business and entities, and that too large business entities. And most important point, the amount which is charged by government is exceeding 5,000, then this is the activity which is taxable. Other than this, the activity is exempt. So let's see now. So services by central, state, union, or local authority. Now they have said excluding the following. So let me for the time being leave it. Done for whom? For business entities. So services done by government for business entities, it means individuals are out, common man is out. Now comes the second point. Which business entities? Large business entities. So again, same point, central, state, union territory, local is doing for business entity. But now what is covered in exemption is where the business entity is a small business entity. Now, who is a small business entity? Whose turnover is below the registration limit. Now, in registration chapter, you may have seen at interlevel for services or for goods and services, the limit is 20 lakhs. For exclusively goods, the limit is 40 lakhs. So these are all registration limits. Now, those businesses whose turnover is below the registration limit. They are small, so they are exempt. Whose turnover is above registration limit, they are large, they are taxable. And then the next condition is, again, what is in the exemption, where again the government is providing these services and the consideration charge does not exceed 5,000. So this is exempt. So I have combined all this into one. Government, I use a common word which means central, state, local, which is providing services to large. Large means which business entity whose turnover exceeds the exemption limit. Turnover exceeds the registration limit. So government giving services to large business entity, and where the value, the amount exceeds rupees 5,000. This is what is taxable. I hope this is clear, students. Right? Okay. Should we proceed? So Radha, what is sovereign and what is non-sovereign? So where government does something as government, like it has to provide you security. Security is sovereign function. But where government does something which can be done by others also, like doing any business, providing you any special facility, like you have these garbage vans coming and collecting, providing you some special facility like providing street lightings. These are not sovereign functions. These are functions which can be done by anyone. So you can put it like this. Sovereign functions are those which are limited only for government, which are restricted only for government. They are sovereign functions, means which only government can do. Others are not allowed to do. So they are sovereign means they are the functions exclusively of the government. Non-sovereign means all other functions and facilities. Correct? Now, when you read all these entries collectively, what common thing comes out of it? That when government is providing these non-sovereign services to large business entities and the amount or the service charge is exceeding 5,000, it will be taxable. Because other than this, we saw one by one what is put in exemption. So small business entity put in exemption. Service value below 5,000 put in exemption. So I have made a statement covering all these pointers. Now, in the main exemption entry number 6, they have excluded certain services from the exemption. Now, these services will be taxable. So these services, whether given to government, whether given to business, whether given to large or small business, whether given to common man, all will be taxable. First is services by post, then by Ministry of Railways. But understand one thing, below we have seen some specific exemptions for services of post, services of ministry. So that is why from 6 they have excluded, because if they would have kept it in 6, all services of these two departments would have been exempt. They want to exempt only limited services of these two departments. So from this list, they have carved out these two departments. It means these two departments are not generically exempt. They are not. So here I'm writing these are taxable in all cases. However, out of these two departments, few services which are specifically exempt below, that will be exempt. Then services in relation to aircraft and vessel, which is provided inside or outside the port or airport. Then services of transportation of goods or passengers. And then any services which is provided to business entities. So these are the 4 services which are kept outside the generic exemption, means these 4 services will not be exempt always. Rather, you can say vice versa. These are removed out of exemption. So when we say these are removed out of exemption, so now you will have to look for their independent exemptions, if any, otherwise they will be taxable. So as we saw, there is an independent exemption for these two, but for few of the service, that much is exempt, remaining is taxable. Later on, as we proceed further, you will find exemption for transport of goods and passenger, those specific transport are exempt. Other than that, all other transportation will be taxable. And then services provided to business, we saw exemption that when business will be exempt when they are having turnover below the registration limit, or when the value of service does not exceed 5,000. So these are the only two cases which are exempt for business. Other than these, remaining all cases of business are also taxable. So this is how, students, you have to understand. But so that it is not complicated, I have merged all these four into one single sentence, which I have written above. So that is what is the exemption relating to government. Now here, some clarifications relating to all these entries. So first, we have seen that services provided by government to large business entities will be taxable. But the question is, how do you distinguish that whether a person is business entity or not? So for this, the clarification is where the government is giving service to anyone, maybe individual, firm, company, but why as a business person? Because they are running a business. Like a simple example, for running a business you require some licenses, you require some registration. So that is a service which the government gives only to business. So when the government is giving service which is only to business, then that is where you say the services are given to business entities. Correct? Then we have this term governmental authority. So see, at some places the word government is used, but in some places the word governmental authority is used. Now, where the term governmental authority is used, there you need to understand what this governmental authority means. So it means any authority or a board or any body which is created by the parliament or the state, that is the state legislature, and or sorry, not and, or it is created by the government, and where 90% or more of their equity or their control is with the government, and most important, they are created to carry out any functions which again are either entrusted to municipality as per 243W or to panchayats as per 243G. Now what is all this? See, you will find that one, there is a government itself. Then second, you have various departments like the public welfare department, some ZP, Zilla Parishad, some department for workers, department for women. So yeah, you are having so many other departments. Now, when these departments will be called as governmental authority, one, where they are set up by the parliament or by the government in which their stake is 90% or more, and second, where they are formed to carry out any of the functions of municipality or panchayat under 243W and G. Next, what is the meaning of government entity? So above was governmental authority, now you have entity. Again, it means authority, board or body, which now may also cover trust societies, again set up by parliament, again set up by government with 90% or more of their involvement or participation. And now, what are government entities which are set up to carry out functions given to government itself? So difference between governmental authority and governmental entity is mainly what are the functions for which they are created. If they are created to carry out the functions given in the Constitution's Article 243W or G, they are called as governmental authority. If they are created to carry out the function of government itself, they are called as government entities. Fine. Now, some clarifications which have come through various circulars. So where accommodation services is provided by Air Force mess or other similar mess, such as Army mess, Navy mess, Parliament or Police Force mess, to whom? To their personnel or to any person other than a business entity, they will be eligible for exemption under entry 6, provided the services by these messes qualify to be considered as service supplied by the government. So when now you can understand from the name of these all messes, they are all government run messes. So when these messes are providing services to their own personnel or to any person, and most important, these services are to be considered as services provided by government, then they are eligible for that generic exemption, which is entry 6. Now, this local authority definition is important. It has also undergone an amendment. So, local authority means what? Now, see, in different places, you have different names given. So, in villages, you are calling them as panchayat. Then, in cities, you call them as municipality or municipal committee. Then, you also have Zilla Parishad, you have district board. Now, all these names, all these are called as local authority, but when when these are called as local authorities, these will be called as local authorities only when first they are created by whom? They are created by the government and they are entrusted by the government with the control and management of a fund. So only when these bodies not only creating or performing the functions of government, but also they are created and they are having the fund under their management. That is, they can manage the money which is coming, then only they will be called as local authority. If they are not able to control the fund or manage the fund, in that particular case, they will not be called as local authorities. Next, now we have the RERA authority. Again, you know this authority or department called as RERA, which is for regulating real estate related work. Now, again, the question is whether RERA is eligible for exemption. So the answer is RERA fits in the definition of governmental authority, which we saw, who are entrusted with the Article 243W or G activities, and that is why it is covered under entry number 4. Therefore, whatever collections the RERA makes, so it levies certain fees and charges. So every builder has to get themselves registered under RERA. So all the fees and charges which the RERA imposes will be eligible for exemption. Why? Because RERA fits in the definition of government authority. Then services provided by police security agencies to PSUs or to private businesses. So many times we have heard the word police protection. Now these are not given free because you are taking an exclusive service. So when you're taking an exclusive service, and these all police or securities are part of what? They are part of government. Now when these services are availed either by a PSU or they are availed by any private persons. So like we hear that many times, some celebrity, some businessman, or a particular person is asking for a specific Z plus security, all these things, and there is a charge. Then the question is, what will be the status? Are they taxable? Are they exempt? The answer is these facilities given by them are not exempt. They are taxable supplies and the recipients are required to pay tax under reverse charge. Now, why reverse charge? Because recall the reverse charge notification over there whenever the services are provided by government and it is not exempt. So in majority of the cases where government is providing service, the tax is payable under reverse charge. Hence, this is also covered under reverse charge. Let me take you to the next set of my notes. Now we come to the next category, students, that is construction related services. Now in construction, now see, government is over. Now keep government outside your thought process because many times once we start government, we are looking at all other things from government angle only. Now government sector is over. Now we look at the next category, that is construction. Now in construction, what are the exemption entries? The exemption entries are first, where there is a construction service which is only labor contract. Now, first understand this. See, whenever you do construction, you require material also. So many times when you hire a labor contractor or a works contractor, as we normally call them, the works contractor is charging you for goods and service both, which means that the works contractor will be bringing its goods and giving you the entire construction. First possibility. Second possibility, you are hiring the works contractor, but you tell the works contractor, boss, all goods I will bring, I only want your labor service. That is where your labor will be doing all these activities of construction, erection, commissioning, etc. But the goods required will be brought by me. So I am bringing the cement, steel, etc. You only provide me the labor. In such cases where you are hiring such type of labor and it is for construction of your individual house. Now see, this happens in all smaller cities and town places where you have a piece of land on which you want a single ground floor or a single storied small house constructed for yourself, and it is covered under the government's present mission of housing for all. Then it will be eligible for exemption, but only if you are hiring for pure labor. Next, all these electricity supply companies. Now, many times what you require is, so see, again, this is for smaller places, especially the uh, villages where there are farms. So at the farm, a farmer requires electricity to run the tube well. Now, the electricity supply company has laid out its network of all the poles and all the cables through which they are supplying electricity. But the cable and the pole is not coming to my farm. It is only limited to the main highway or the main roads. Now, I want the electricity to come to my farm so that on the farm, once I get the electricity connection, I can run the tube wells for irrigation purposes. Now, in such cases, I will apply to the electricity body and the electricity distribution company will, on payment of some charges, do the construction erection of that entire electricity pole. They will draw the wire lines up to that particular pole, and through that pole, maybe using the DP and all, electricity will be provided to my farm. So when these electricity supply companies, these electricity distribution utilities, they are charging me for what? For construction, erection, etc. of the infrastructure, as I said, the DP, the pole, the lines, so that I can get electricity at my farm for my agricultural use. And what is my agricultural use? Running the tube well. Otherwise, I don't require electricity at the farm. I require it for this purpose. That will be exempt. Next, again, like the first service, where I'm hiring a labor contractor, material is brought by me. I'm only hiring you as the labor contractor. For doing what? For doing construction of my single residential unit. Now, what is a single residential unit? Like a bungalow. So bungalow and building. The difference is building is a multiple residential unit where there are multiple units or flats where multiple people live. And against that, you have a row house, you have a bungalow, you have a single standalone 1 or 2 storied apartment where it is only for one family, that is called as single residential unit. So when you are getting your single residential unit constructed, again for that, whatever labor charges, pure labor charges you are paying, that is without material, that is exempt. And then a new entry which was brought in relating to real estate projects. So whenever you enter into a joint development agreement as a landowner, what you do, you supply the TDR, you supply the FSI, or maybe you give your land on long-term lease and you are giving it to whom? You are giving it to the builder developer. Then the supply of this TDR FSI is exempt. Then there are certain conditions which the developer has to comply. But in your hand, the supply of TDR of this FSI is exempt. So these are some entries, students, relating to which service? Construction related service. So in this, what you have to remember and understand is where the construction is for pure labor contract, it will be fully exempt. Now clarification, there is a term used above, that is original work. So original work means what? Wherever you are doing construction and the construction is new, that is what is original work. But in new construction, it may cover all types of additions and alterations to an abandoned or damaged structure, or it may include erection, commissioning, installation of plant machinery and equipment. All these are considered as original works. Then we had the term residential complex. What is a residential complex? So it is basically a building which has more than one single residential unit. So you have multiple flats. That is where it gets distinguished from a single residential unit. Then it becomes a complex. Now, students, we come to a very important service for your exams, that is passenger transport. Importantly, who is providing this service is not important. So the service may be run by government. As you know, in many cities, you have the State Transport Corporation, which is a government body running the transportation service. And equally, we have the private players. Similarly, we have transportation of passengers by road, by air, by water, by railways. All are covered over here. Now again, the simple ideology is common man. So whatever is the transportation which a common man affords, a common man incurs, is what they have exempted. This is the logic. Now the moment I say common man, the question is whether air travel is done by common man. Answer is no. So by this logic of common man, air travel should be taxable. It is taxable. However, here the exemption is given because the government wants some backward areas to get developed. Government want people should visit there either for their work or for tourism, for travel, so that that particular place develops. So the government has identified those places, and then they have said if you are traveling by the economy class and that particular airport is falling in one of these places which the government is eyeing for development. So as you can see, majority of these are your northeastern states, and you all know government has a priority for developing these northeastern states. So if you are traveling by air and the class is not business class or first class, it is an economy class, then the air travel is exempt. This is not a common man service, but exempt because the government wants to develop these places. Then comes the entry for common man. What is the common man service? So wherever you are traveling using a non-air conditioned either contract carriage or state carriage, in both cases the condition is it should be a non-AC. So you are going by a bus which is a non-AC bus. In that case, it will be exempt. However, there is a restriction when you are booking this transportation using an app. So nowadays you can book a rickshaw, book a taxi using an app. That will be not eligible for exemption. It means this will be taxable. So wherever you are booking your transportation medium using some app, which is we all know called as electronic commerce operator, and it is already notified to be taxed under section 9(5). Again, you know this electronic commerce operator services are taxed under 9(5) of the charging section. Then those services are not eligible for exemption. Next. Now some specific services provided by the central government. Again, it is the service of transportation by air. Again, you will say, sir, air is not a common man service, but again, please see the purpose objective. The government has selected some smaller airports and they want now even the smaller cities should have airport. So they have started a regional connectivity scheme whereby if any airport is set up in a very small city, but the government wants the air travel to be developed so that the people get facility. So for the first 3 years, that particular service which is provided by way of transporting passengers by air and which is either starting from or terminating at one of those airports which is falling under RCS, Regional Connectivity Scheme, that will be eligible for exemption. Now coming to transport by railways. Again, what is common man? transport by railways, but not in first class or AC coach. So you are in the general class or you are in the sleeper class, which is neither first class, neither AC class. The charges for that are exempt. Similarly, if you are using metros, see, technically, I believe metro is more sophisticated form of travel. Even the charges are high. But since metro concept is newer in India, it is only in past 8-10 years that we have metros, and that too, originally it started only in major cities. Now slowly it is expanding to smaller cities. So the government wants to promote this so that there is a distributed load of transportation. Some people are going by the road route, some are using the metro, some are using the locals, some are using nowadays the underground metros. So government wants to promote this, so hence they have kept metro in the exemption category. Then when you are using waterways and it is inland, inland means within the country you are traveling, that is exempt. Most important, wherever you are using any public transport, so any public bus you are using, and it is not for the purpose of tourism, and this you are doing, sorry, not by public bus is already covered in the previous entry. You are using vessel means ships for transport, and your travel is between places which are in India, so you are doing internal transportation, internal traveling using waterways, that is exempt. Similarly, taxis, auto rickshaws, all are exempt. Again, exception is this will not be exempt if you are booking that auto rickshaw taxi using the e-commerce operator, which is already chargeable under section 9(5). So taxis, auto rickshaws booked using Ola, Uber, Rapido apps, taxable. Now an important point. Now see here, in both these entries, which are the main exemption entries, the word used is either non-AC contract carriage or non-AC stage carriage. What is this contract carriage? What is this stage carriage? You need to understand, because this is what is made exempt. So where you are availing passenger transport service, but either as a contract carriage or as a stage carriage, that is what is given the exemption. Now, what are these terms? Please understand. I'll give you an example first. You book a private taxi and you book a share taxi. You book a private rickshaw or a share rickshaw. You are booking or going by bus. One, you are going by share. Share means you are only paying for your seat. And the second is you are booking the entire bus. This is what is the difference. So when you book the entire transportation medium, the entire cab, the entire rickshaw, the entire bus, it is called as contract carriage. But where the bus is already operating on a route, like what we call as city bus, you just board the bus and you only pay for your individual ticket. That is called as stage carriage. Why stage? Because you are going from one station to another, one stage to another stage. You have nothing to do with the entire bus. You are not controlling the route of the bus. The bus has its own route. You are selecting or you are getting into the bus and paying only for your stage. That is from this stop to that stop. That is what is called as stage carriage. So two terms, contract carriage, stage carriage. You transport by both ways. In some days, you take a private rickshaw or a taxi. What is private? Only you are sitting and you control the direction. You tell them, okay, I want to go to this place. So take me to this place, stop at this place. So you are giving direction on which route to go. So here you fall in contract carriage. See the definition. It is defined to mean motor vehicle carrying passenger, and it is for some hire or reward. Now up to this point it is generic. What is important is it is engaged under a contract, express or implied. Now you'll say, sir, we don't sign contract with the taxi wala or the rickshaw wala. Correct, but it may be express, it may be implied, it may be even verbal. So verbally you tell them, okay, boss, I want to go to the railway station, which is 10 kilometers away. And he agrees that, okay, I will take you to the railway station. I'll charge you 500 rupees. This is a contract. So under a contract, what you are doing is you are hiring the entire vehicle as a whole for your carriage. So as I said, you are booking the entire taxi, rickshaw, at times the entire bus. You tell them where to go. So they are exclusively going for you, and that whole cab is booked only for you. That is what is contract carriage. So you are booking a motor vehicle, which is for carrying passengers. This is for some reward, and this is done for booking the vehicle as a whole for your carriage. You are not paying only for your seat, you are paying for the whole journey, for the whole vehicle. That is where it becomes contract carriage. And it is said it is entered into by a person with the holder of permit. So many times these people are having a permit, without that they cannot run taxi or rickshaw. So they are holding a permit in relation to such vehicle, or any authorized person by him in this behalf on a fixed or an agreed rate of sum. So we fix the price. As I said, I want to go to the railway station and I'm ready to pay 500. So we fix the price that this price will be applicable for this whole journey. It is called as contract carriage. Now contract carriage may be on a time basis, or it may be from one point to another. What is time basis? Again, observe. Many times we book a bus, we book a cab for a whole day. Now in that day, you may travel, you may not travel, you may travel whole day, you may travel some hours. You have booked it for the whole day. At times you book it for multiple 4-5 days or a week. That is why it is time basis. Second, like how you're going on road and you wave your hand and you make a rickshaw wala stop. You are booking it not for a whole day or for an hour. You are booking it for a particular route. So either you have booked for the whole day or you have booked it for the route. Now, best example is when you go to Ola Uber app, you find both these options. So one, you can book Ola Uber taxi. Now, though I'm giving example of Ola Uber, but it is taxable. We already saw in the above entries that whenever you are booking these from apps, it will be taxable. But I'm just giving example because over there you have this option you can see. One, you put the distance starting and the end, and they give you a price. Or second, you tell them, boss, I want the taxi for whole day. Ola Uber has that specific facility to even provide you taxi on a time basis. So you book the vehicle either on time basis or on a particular route. Now, while going on the route, you may stop to pick up or to drop down some passenger, because many times in your taxi, if you're traveling, you may be going with family. There may be 3-4 persons together who are going by the taxi, or it may be single person, whatever. Point is, you may be stopping at different places or not. That is not material. What is material is you are controlling that whole transport. And the other condition is not including contract anywhere during the journey and includes a maxi cab or a motor cab. So all types of motor vehicles are covered. So understand meaning of contract carriage. So when you book the whole taxi, whole bus, whole rickshaw, it is contract carriage. Another term used is radio taxi, means the taxi including a radio cab by whatever name called, which is a two-way radio communication with the central office and is enabled for tracking using the GPS or the GPRS system. So radio taxis, generally you find that all these taxis which are listed on the Ola Uber app are radio taxis. Next, what are metered cab? So again, whenever you are traveling and whenever you wave hand and make a rickshaw or a taxi stop and you say that I want to go to this place, either you fix up a lump sum price or it is done by meter. So there is a meter installed. The meter is provided by a government body. So the meter is authentic. In fact, it is also getting checked regularly to ensure that it is running properly. And then whatever is the distance and the time you have taken for your travel, the meter calculates the price for that journey. That is what is a metered cab. So it is defined to mean a contract carriage. So you always pay by meter when you book the whole taxi, not when you are going by only share, correct? So it is a contract carriage. It means you have booked the whole taxi on which there is a device of the type and make approved by the relevant transport authority. So these meters are always approved, licensed, and is fitted, which indicates reading of the fare. So in the meter, you'll always find that one, they are showing you the distance, two, they are showing you the fare. And it is charged accordingly under the conditions of its permitted use under Motor Vehicle Act and the rules made thereafter. Then another terminology used is e-rickshaw. These are what? These are battery operated vehicles, not exceeding 4,000 watts of battery. And generally, since we are talking about rickshaw, it will be a three-wheeled transport medium, correct? So it is for carrying goods or passenger as the case may be for some hire or reward, manufactured, constructed or adopted, equipment maintained in accordance with such specification as may be prescribed. So as you all know, all these rickshaws are made with a particular specification and hence they look alike. Next, the term public transport used in this entry only means that the transport should be open to public. It can be privately or publicly owned. So it may be a government transport body like the state transport bodies, or it may be private. It makes no difference when we use the word public transport. So why this clarification is given? Because many times generally when the word public is used, you link it with government. But here it is clarified that when we are saying public transport, it does not mean it is controlled by government. It may be a privately owned transport also. What is important is it is offering the service to public at large. Whoever wants to book, they can book. Then your transport is public transport. Only exclusion is on transportation, which is predominantly for tourism. So we saw in that entry, except where you are going for tourism, other things are covered. Such a service which may combine with transportation, sightseeing, food, beverage, music, accommodation, such as shikara, etc. So what will not be covered is that when you are booking a transport, which is not merely transport, it is tourism. And how do you know it is tourism? So many times it covers the transportation plus sightseeing, food, music, accommodation. All these things are covered in one thing. That is why it becomes tourism and that is not eligible for exemption. Any questions, students? Students, anybody, any questions or doubts?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I have doubt. At that time, when you have said that SPV will provide the services to railway, that is exempt. I want to know what kind of services SPV will provide into railway, because SPV is issuing the security at public at large, not to railway.
See, SPU
So
means what? What do you, no, firstly, it is
SPV,
not SPU, it is SPV.
SPV,
So what do you mean by SPV? Tell me.
special purpose vehicles.
So
Special
what are they?
purpose vehicle. They are basically trustees. Suppose that they are giving the securities, and suppose that bank is accepting the loans and loans is selling to the SPV, and SPV will issue the mutual fund securities, other things.
So that is one type of SPV, na beta. So all SPVs are not that, na.
So I want to know, sir, that which
Correct.
kind
So
of.
see, understand, see, this is one type of SPV again, but firstly understand what is the meaning of SPV. So SPV is a concept where many times when the government wants to do something or when an authority or body wants to do something, but it does not want to involve in it directly. So it creates a separate entity which is called as SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle. So the point of creating an SPV is that maybe in that SPV, the government and even non-government, which may include private or other outsiders, can become part and they can together do that activity. So whenever the activity is to be done in combination with others, not independently, and also where the government does not want to give its own name, then it creates a third entity which is called as SPV. Like I'll give you an example. Today, the whole GST is run by GSTN, which is a what you can say a software, or it is a platform. Correct? GSTN is a platform like Make My Trip and all these are platforms. GSTN is also a platform. Correct?
Okay.
Who is running the platform?
Government? Because
No. That is what is the interesting part. This is what is our presumption. So again, government has created a SPV where along with government, you have many private entities who are running the GSTN. That is the beauty of this concept. See, it may
it means,
appear to us. Sorry.
sir, it means the taxpayer data are also seeing the private entity.
Yes.
Whosoever is controlling the GST website, they can see.
So tell me one thing, beta. Nowadays, I've heard people talking about data privacy and all. Your data is anyways no more private. You have so many apps in your mobile and your laptop, correct? You have so many
Right, sir.
different types of places where you have register yourself. Whenever you download any simple basic app, that app first asks you access to your contacts. They ask access to your galleries. They ask access to your drives. Don't you provide them access?
Providing, sir. But sir, whenever we required, we cannot get any other person. No? That's
Means what?
they are getting my data, but if I want their data, then it will not available. Na?
So that is what I'm saying. Na? Nee. So what I'm trying to say is when we are already making all of our data, in fact, this is a very personal data which is in your phone. At least here in GST and what data you are uploading, only your business data, correct? No personal data
Right,
is
sir.
going. But when you
No.
are giving access to all these apps and even an app which has nothing to do with your contacts and with your gallery, still it is asking access, correct?
Right, sir. Right.
So tell me one thing, where is there all this? See, all this is a buzzword according to me. It is just good for discussion that my data is now accessible to even private entities, so it is not ethically correct. But that is not the right argument because we as individuals have already given our data everywhere. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So coming back to the SPV point, you go and check, you can Google it, you will find out who is running or not running, sorry, who is owning the GSTN. It is not only government. We have that understanding or impression that it is owned by government completely, but that is not the case.
Okay.
Are you getting my point?
Okay,
So
I'll check this one. This
you should check.
I'm having the doubt that whether GST is wholly owned by government or partly owned by government.
You Google it, na. You can do it
Yeah.
immediately. You'll get the answer. So what I'm trying to explain you is the concept of SPV. So SPV means a third entity. It is not exclusively me. It is not exclusively you. We want to create an entity which is different from you and me, but we are part of that entity. So something like in your old traditional accounting language, it is the JV. So that is what is SPV. Now here what is covered is, please understand, SPV is created and it is created to provide services to the railways. Now, what type of services? Services by way of allowing the railways to use the infrastructure built and owned by them. Now, what is this? See, again, you may feel that, okay, the entire railway, that train, the entire coaches is of Indian Railways. Sorry, that may not be the case. Today you are traveling by the buses. You have your city buses going on in your
Yes.
city, right?
Yes, sir.
Since it is written, it is Maharashtra State Transport Corporation, Tamil Nadu State Transport Corporation, Karnataka State Transport Corporation. We believe that the bus is owned by the government. Sorry, go and check. The government has not purchased the bus. The government is not owning the bus.
Okay.
So nowadays, what has happened? A new concept, a new model has started whereby the government itself does not becomes a party directly. It creates a third entity called as the SPV, in which the government may have some stake, plus it is made up of private persons. Like here, what is this SPV doing? They have themselves built the entire infrastructure which the railways require. This is built and also owned by the SPV. So let us say maybe this whole which project is coming up? Bullet train. It will require special station. It will require special tracks. Now we all know that bullet train will be run by Ministry of Railways. That is, it is coming under government. But if you go and check, you will find that the entire cost of building that may not be borne by the government itself. Again, it has created a third entity called as SPV. That SPV is building the infrastructure. It is the owner of that infrastructure. And now, since Indian Railways will be using it, they will be charging some price to the Indian Railways. That is what is the service which is provided by the SPV to the railways. This service is made exempt, but not entirely, during some initial period which they are calling it as concession period. So maybe for first 5 years, whatever will be the service charge which the SPV is charging to the railways for using their infrastructure, the government may have exempted it for that limited period of time. So that is what is exempt over here. Correct?
Correct, sir. Okay, sir.
Did you check who is the owner of GSTN?
Yes, sir, I have checked, but here is coming that 50% is central government and union territory, and 51% that private entities, and 1% not shown. 1%.
Correct.
Only
And what
50.
are those private entities? Did you get the names? Radha has put it here. HDFC, ICICI, LIC, many. In fact, see, majority of these are banks. Correct?
Okay, sir. Correct, sir.
And GSTN is run by a Section 8 company. So GSTN itself is, see, one is government could have run the GSTN. No, they have created a Section 8 company, and that is where the joint partnership is there. Correct?
Correct, sir.
But now, sir, it is 100% government owned entity.
Correct.
That's what I saw.
So see what happens initially. See what is the model beta. Government do not have the money to make all the huge investments. So that is why this SPVs are created. So they initially do what? They ask some private players to come in. Ki Baba, you have money, you can take risk, you involve. Over a period, if the government feels that no, I don't want private persons, slowly and steadily they will start buying the stakes. Automatically, it will become government. Vice versa can happen in future. After some period of time, again the government feels no, I'm short of money. Like how we call it as what is that word called? Where government sells their stake in various. See, I'm missing that word. So you have all these earlier, the entire railways, the entire LIC, everything was owned by government. Then slowly and steadily, what government started doing? They started selling off their stakes. We have a word for this. So it may happen both ways. So that is why SPV is created, so that it is a third entity. So wherever the government wants, it can enter also and it can exit also. That is why it is SPV, a third entity. Correct? Understood, beta? Is your doubt clear about SPV?
Yes, sir, clear.
Good. Now, after understanding passenger and transport, let me take you to goods transport. And what you can see in red anywhere in our notes, that is what is the recent latest amendment. And also that is applicable to your upcoming exams because it has been made effective minimum 6 months before your exam date. So these are all applicable. Now, what are we discussing? We are discussing goods transportation. Now in goods transportation, it may be by road, it may be by waterways, or it may be by railways, or even by ships. And the last medium is air. Now, obviously, you are not finding air over here because air transport is not required to be exempt, so it is fully taxable. What is transport? What is exempt is, one is transport of goods by road, transport of goods by inland waterways, or by railways, or by huge ships. Now, in such cases, what are the detailings of these exemptions, because it is not completely exempt always. So what is the point? Services by way of transportation of goods by road is exempt. However, following two services are taxable. So this entry is firstly saying that all transportation of goods by road is exempt, first part, except two. So if you're transporting by GTA or by courier, it is not exempt here. Again, like how we saw in government entry, first they excluded that entire 2, 3 categories like post and all, and then they had specific exemption entries for them. Similarly, here we'll have specific exemption entries for GT also later. But for the time being, in transportation of goods by road, what is the meaning of this entry? If you are transporting your goods by road by other than GTA, by other than courier agency, it will be fully exempt. But where it is done by a GTA, it will not be fully exempt. Then you'll have to go to the specific GTA entry. Whatever is made exempt in GTA entry, that will be exempt. Remaining will be taxable. Now, I take you to the GTA entry. Now, again, GTA entry has multiple legs. Now, within GTA entry, what is the condition? So there is a GTA which is doing transportation of goods. Now, when GTA is doing transportation of some specified goods, what are they? We will see. It will be exempt. So out of transport of different goods, where the transportation is done of some specific goods, that transport is exempt. Now, other than that, for all other goods, other than specified goods, then again there are two parts. For all other goods, other than these specified goods, if the transportation is done for specified recipients, then only it is taxable. If it is done for other recipients, it is exempt. Within specified recipient, there is one carve out, which is exempt. All other transports done for specified recipient is taxable. Now, so whenever you are checking for GTA, first thing, it is not covered in the generic exemption. In fact, it is excluded from the generic exemption. So generic exemption says we will not exempt GTA totally. So you have specific exemption for GTA. Now for that, you have to first check whether GTA is doing transport of specified goods. What are those specified goods? Agricultural products, milk, salt, food grains, which also includes not only the raw one, but even the processed ones where you are having flour, that is the atta, or you are doing it for pulses and rice. Next, transportation is of organic manure. See, manure also are of two types. One is the chemically made manures, which is normally called as fertilizers, or which are organic, which is biochemical, which is not chemical, which is bio. So only the transportation of bio manure is exempt. Next, every day we get newspaper. It is printed somewhere else and then dispatched to your house. The transportation of newspaper, magazines, which are registered here, are exempt. Then transportation of relief materials. What are relief materials? So we have different types of calamities happening, disasters happening. Now these may be natural or man-made. Even war is a type of disaster which is man-made. And then you have natural calamities like now you would be seeing there are floods in many places. At some places, in places like America, you have those hurricanes, you have high-speed winds, then you have tsunamis, you have earthquakes. All these things are covered. So for all these types of mishaps, whenever people are affected by these, we call them as victims of these. And regularly, you have seen this, we send relief materials, which includes clothes, blankets, food, basic items of medicines, basic care items. So these are called as relief materials. Now, these also have to be transported and sent there. again transportation of the relief item is exempt. And then lastly, all the defense and the military items. So we find that again, there are specific manufacturing units in India which manufacture these equipments, and then they are sent to all the various posts or all the various places where the military actually requires them. So all this transportation is exempt. So if you are transporting any of these things, no need to go further. It will be exempt. Now, if you are not transporting any of these items, so your transportation is for other items, other goods, then now you will check you are doing transportation for whom. If you are doing transportation for the following persons, it is taxable. What is exempt? When you are doing transportation for other than the following persons. So I have called these persons as specified recipient of GTA service. So when any of these persons are taking your GTA service, and obviously the first point, you are not transporting these, because if you are transporting this, it is exempt always. If you are transporting any other item than the above items, and the transportation service is taken by a specified recipient, the names of whom are given here from A to F, it is taxable. When the transportation is not done by any of these persons, then that transportation will be exempt. So what is exempt? Transportation service done or given by GTA to persons other than the specified recipient, other than them. So other than specified recipient, whoever is taking GTA service, that will be eligible for exemption. Now, where it will be taxable, who are the specified recipient? Where the transportation is availed by a factory, a society, a cooperative society, a body corporate, a partnership firm, a casual taxable person who is registered under the GST law, or for that matter, any person who is registered under the GST law. So what basically the entry says, it should be taken by an unregistered person, including an unregistered casual taxable person, and other than these people. So in short, if I have to simplify it, who are specified recipient? These are the specified entities which are created under specific laws. They are the specified persons. So as you can see, the name factory, society, cooperative, body corporate, partnership. These are the entities created under specified laws. They are specified recipient. If they avail transport service, it will be taxable. Similarly, those persons who are created under GST law, that is, they have taken registration under GST law, either as a casual taxable person or as a normal regular taxable person, but you have taken registration under the GST law, you also become a specified recipient. Now, within specified persons, I have said there is a carve out. What is this carve out? Government. Now, whenever government, now government means either a department of government, central state government, or a local authority or a government agency, which has taken registration under the GST law, but not because they are taxable, but because they are required to do TDS under section 51 of the GST law. And most important, they are not themselves involved in any taxable supply. So where government is taking registration, now we just saw here, any person who is registered under the GST law becomes a specified person and liable to pay tax on the GTA service. However, if that registered person is any of the government bodies and they have taken the registration exclusively for one reason, because the law has asked them to deduct TDS and hence they have taken registration, they themselves are not engaged or involved in any type of supply, then such persons will be not required to pay GST on the GTA service. They will be exempted from paying GST on the GTA service. So GTA providing service to government bodies who are registered under GST law, but only for the purpose of doing TDS not because they are taxable, then such government bodies are excluded. They are not required to pay GST on the GTA service. I hope this is clear to everyone. Yes, beta.
Sir, little bit doubt is there is a entry number 21B कि GTA services to the government agency like department or establishment of central government like जैसे state government, local authority etc. But sir, there is a very much opaque for me to distinguish what is the TDS under GST and what is अगर वही department TDS under income tax then what is the difference, sir?
No, I did not get your question.
Sir. Sir, question is if a GTA is providing services to these organizations and they are liable to deduct TDS on GST part as well as income tax part, how can we, sir, this is my confusion point, sir.
See, firstly here, when I'm saying they are required to deduct TDS, we are only talking about TDS of GST. So we are not talking about TDS of income tax, point number one. Second point is they are required to deduct TDS on what? TDS on the contracts that they give. So you all know that government regularly give different types of contract for road construction, contract for pipeline laying. So there are multiple contracts which are given by the government from time to time. Now, when they make payment to the contractors, they are required to deduct the TDS on those payments that they are doing to the contractor, not on the payment, sorry, because the payment TDS is under the income tax law. So what they are basically deducting TDS is for the GST portion. So whenever they have given contract to any contractor, obviously on that contract charges there is GST. So they are deducting the TDS of the GST portion. Correct?
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Clear, sir.
Great. Now, going back to the main entry. Now, before main entry, one more entry. So where transportation is done by railway or by vessel from one place in India to another, in such cases, again, if they are also doing transportation of the same goods, which we saw for GTA, again, their transportation, that is by railway or by ship, will be exempt from GST. One is of relief material, second is of military material, third is of newspaper magazine, fourth is of agricultural produce, milk, salt, food, grains, flour, pulses, and organic manure. Same thing. Correct? So this same list of goods, when the transportation of these goods is done by whom? Either GTA, or of same goods is done by railways, or of same goods is done by waterways. Any of these transportation will be exempt. I hope this is understood and clear to everyone. Now coming back to the GTA. Now in GTA, there is one amendment. Now what we have understood, what is GTA doing? It is transporting goods from one place to another. However, there is a recent amendment which says that nothing contained in this entry will apply. So it means GTA exemption will not apply, or the exemption of this road transport will not apply. To whom? To local delivery services provided either by e-commerce operator or local services provided through e-commerce operator. Now, what is this? See, interestingly, they have used this terminology local delivery service, but nowhere they have defined local delivery. But what I believe they include in this, or they want to include in this, is they are including the latest newly started apps, where now the most common app I know is Porter, where what the app is doing, you want to send your goods. Let us say you want to send tiffin from your house to office, or you want to send some documents from your place to your client's place. Earlier, you were supposed to have a person who would go and deliver the goods over there. Now that is not required. Now this delivery can be done by an agency, by an app, where you can book the app, and through the app your goods will be delivered, dispatched between two places. Now, generally, when you see these apps are providing these services within the city limits. And that is what I believe they are trying to cover in the term local delivery. So local delivery not defined in the law, but what I understand, what I believe they wish to cover over here is this. So the point is that whenever you are sending your goods, obviously these all deliveries are by road. These deliveries, even though done by road, so like how they have excluded two people from goods transportation by road, one is GTA courier. So you can now say they have also excluded third person. So where this transportation is done locally, either by the app or there is someone who is providing you these services by registering through the app. So by or through, I'm sure you understand the difference. So the app itself is doing the delivery, or the app is only acting as a mediator whereby the person who's doing delivery will connect to you. That is, you book a service on the app and the concerned person will come and pick up your goods. So whether the services are provided by the app or through the app, the point is, if it is local delivery of goods, it will be excluded, means not exempted. Yes, Radha.
No, sir. Like you said, local services by electronic commerce operator. Like, how can an app deliver the service? You need a human intervention, right?
So when I say by the app, see, there are two possibilities. The app has created its own labor force. See, firstly, when these apps started, like Ola, Uber, whether the taxis and the drivers are run or maintained by Ola, Uber, answer is no. They have not hired even a single driver, right?
Right, right.
In Ola, Uber, what happens? Different persons who want to act as a taxi operator, they register themselves on the Ola, Uber app as the service provider. Then people like you and me who are the customers, we book, we put our location, we put our starting point, end point, and we say that I want this service. Now, when I go for, like, we press the button of confirm, then what happens? The Ola Uber app sends the message to the all their registered these cab operators. Whoever is nearby, the person clicks and accepts. Means in that particular case, Ola Uber app is only acting as a mediator, helping we get connected with the taxi person, whoever is nearby in our locality. That is where the service is done through the app. But at the same time, in some places, the apps are having their own workforce, like Zomato, Swiggy. Now, what Zomato, Swiggy are doing, now they may be also following the first model, but also like, sorry, I think Blinkit is doing that. They have their own labor force. So they have kept people on payroll. They have their own workforce. Now, when they have their own workforce, now if you book something through Blinkit, they will send their employees to do that work. That is where it is provided by the e-commerce operator. So when it is saying buy means the app is not doing it. It is some human who is coming to your house to pick up, but the human being is the employee of the app. So indirectly, the app is giving you the service. That is what is by the app. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, some clarifications, some explanations relating to this. So what is goods carriage? Goods carriage means the motor vehicle using which the goods are being transported. So if you see any truck or anything, on the top of the truck, it is written goods carriage. So goods carriage is the name given to that vehicle, which is constructed, adapted solely for transporting the goods. Carriage of goods means transport of goods. Who is a GTA? Now GTA, now this part of definition was there. This part is recently added. So GTA means a person who provides the service of transportation of goods by road and who gives you the consignment note. See, this is the difference between a GTA and a non-GTA. So where the transporter gives you a consignment note, the transporter is called as a GTA. Now what they have clarified, GTA will not include these people. So now what is the impact of this? We have seen some exemptions specifically for GTA. That is if newspaper, relief items, organic manure, all these items are sent through GTA, it will be exempt. But now again a clarification which is amended in the definition of GTA says that GTA will not include where you are doing local delivery service. So if you are taking local delivery service through an app like the Porter app, now even if you are sending food grains or milks, it will be taxable because local delivery apps or local delivery service is not fitting in GTA. So that is the exemptions of GTA will not apply. Next, GTA providing service only to an unregistered persons, that is the end consumer or unregistered casual taxable person are exempt. So we saw in GTA when they are providing to specified recipient, it is taxable. Other than that, who are left? Those who are unregistered. Then issuance of this consignment note is the most important condition to make you a GTA. So until and unless you are not issuing a consignment note, you will not be a GTA. Now, what is the purpose of consignment note? So basically consignment note is that document which legally provides a lien on the goods. What is lien? Lien is the control. So when you hand over your goods to the transporter and you give the powers to the transporter, that is the transporter now controls your entire goods. That is what is called as lien of goods. And to make it legal and official that tomorrow it should be proven that you have given the transporter the goods only for the purpose of transport and not any other purpose, the transporter gives you consignment note. Now, who will not be a GTA? Individual truck or tempo operators. Like you have people standing at a specific spot in your locality. And if you want to avail their service, you go there, you ask them, you tell them, ki boss, I want to send my goods from here to here. How much charge you will take? And that person tells you a charge. And then you say, okay, you come to my house and pick up these goods and take it to that particular place. These are the individual truck or tempo drivers, and they are not giving you a consignment note because in this particular type of transport, the entire control of goods is not given to them. You are taking care of everything. Only you are taking the transport services. So they are not issuing you consignment note. And the moment they don't give you consignment note, they are no more GTA. Most important point, the moment they are not GTA, all their services are exempt. Because what is taxable in entry 18 is only goods transport by GTA. If it is not by GTA, that is by these individual truck operators, it is always fully exempt. Now, if you see the entry, it says in relation to transport of goods. Now, what is the impact of in relation? So it will cover the transport, which is the main element, but many times there are some other ancillary services or facilities which transporter provides. Like they will also do the loading, unloading. So they will send with them, with the truck, few helper type of people who will help you do loading, unloading. At times they provide you packing, unpacking, transshipment, temporary warehousing. All these are provided by the transporter so that your goods safely reach from one end of the country to another end. So this exemption will apply to all these services again because the word uses in relation. So the CBIC has clarified that all these ancillary and incidental services which the GTA is providing along with the main transportation of goods, they will all be treated as part of the composite supply, and applying the same rule, once it is part of composite supply, it will be eligible for exemption. Then comes the definition of courier agency because that is also carved out in entry 18 and that is also made taxable like GTA. So what is courier? It is defined to mean person who is engaging door-to-door transportation of time-sensitive documents, and that is what is the purpose of courier. So why we use courier? Because we want to send some documents immediately, urgently to a place, at times even some goods or articles, and it is carried by one person who is called as the courier boy. Similarly, you have another concept called as express cargo service. So there are some transporters who also do door-to-door transportation, and they have some special arrangements for speedy transportation so that your goods reach immediately. That is what is express cargo. Now the question is, where will this express cargo fall? Again, point is the nature of service which is given by these express cargo falls within the concept of courier, because if you see, it is matching very closely with the definition of courier. Hence, whatever is applicable to courier is also applicable to them. And then if you read all the entries collectively, you will find that transportation of some specified goods, whether done by railway or by ship or by GTA, all are exempt. And if you see, the list is common. Fine, students. So I think we can stop here today. So we have completed a major list of exempted services. Now in our next class, we will conclude this chapter by covering the remaining part. I request you all to kindly go through the module, go through all these entries. If you find anything not clear, confusing, you may come back to me in the next class and I would be happy to clear your doubt. So with this, we conclude today's class. Thank you very much, students, and let us connect in the next class for concluding this topic of exemption. Thank you. Good day. Yes, Sanketji, we can close. Thank you, Sanketji. Good day.